Hello everyone. Watch till the end of the video for a surprise. I'll see you there. Story by you/shuddering-shannon. So my stupid brand new water heater broke down from all the calcium and things in the water, and so we rented a hotel room so we could all get a shower. My hubby and my teenage daughters had gone in first. While they took their shower, I had already been looking for cameras. After shows and articles depicting warnings to check had me freaked out. My husband had laughed at me, so I thought that we were safe. It wasn't until I was actually standing inside the shower that I saw the camera. You had to see it from a certain angle, wrapped around the light that had a cover over the bottom of it, but an opening all the way around the edges in the middle. I looked up, and there it was. I screamed, and my hubby came running in. I told him where it was, and he checked, and sure enough, he took the bottom cover off, and the camera fell down, and was actually wired to the light and set to sit and point looking down into the shower. My husband ripped it out and marched straight to the office, and from there, a fight ensued. The creepy guy got pissed that my husband was destroying his room, and the owner called the cops. Well, my hubby is a hothead when he's on a moral mission, and grabbed the guy up by the scruff of his collar. His mentality being, if I'm going to jail, I'm going to make it worth it. But the guy's wife comes out, and by then I was dressed and there for backup, and she wanted to know what was happening. So I told her what happened, and she said wait right there. She had grabbed a knife from her room and was chasing the owner guy around with it. When the cops showed up, the cops asked us what happened first, and we told them. They took the owner in and apparently found hundreds of videos in a private nook in his bedroom, and they are using it to build a case on him. So beware, check everywhere before ever undressing in a hotel.
This happened to me about 5.5 years ago. It was October, almost Halloween, and my husband and I were out seeing one of our favorite bands with another couple. Huge, well-known metropolitan area. We were completely wasted, drinking screwdrivers and shots of Jack Fire. Our friends we were with went to go refill our drinks, and when he came back, he had a girl with him who looked to be around our age. In reality, she could have been anywhere from 18 to 28. He tells us that this girl had lost her dad, and she wants us to help her find him. We were so drunk and just having an awesome time, so we told her, we can't really help you look for your dad, but you can stand here with us until you find him or he finds you, or whatever. No big deal at this point. So this girl stands with me the whole time. We're holding on to each other and dancing, and we both know every word to every song. It was actually just an amazing time. So fast forward a couple of songs. This is when things start to get weird. She starts begging me to come back to her hotel with her and her dad. She's saying stuff like, I promise it's not weird. It's not going to be creepy. I swear we're not the cops. And just overall weird stuff like that. She would not shut up about this. She wanted me to come back with her and her dad so bad. I can't really remember everything she said, because like I said, I was inebriated. But what I'll never forget is the most creepy, weird feeling that washed over me when she was saying all of this to me. My husband wasn't paying much attention, so he didn't hear what she was saying. For some unknown reason, the friend that came with turned around and started cussing the life out of the crazy girl. I don't remember what she was saying, but it was along the lines of, You need to back off. And at that moment, I turned to my husband and said, she's creeping me out. Let's lose her. And so we ran away to the lobby area. I was so scared she was going to find us or track us down or something. I've always just got the most weird feeling when I think about that night. That girl wanted something from me, but I don't know what it was. It could have been she was just having a good time with me and wanted it to continue after the show. Her being there with her dad, though, is what made it so weird for me for some reason. I got the vibe that they could have been human traffickers or in a cult or something sinister. The fact that I was so drunk and my spidey senses still went off like they did, that's why I can't shake the feeling that I could have been in some kind of stranger danger that night.
Story by u/time_appointment 9299. This all took place a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to share my experience with you. I have a friend, a female, 15 years old, and let's call her Anne. She was planning for a sweet 16. Her parents owned a hotel, so she decided that me, my twin sister, and a couple of our other friends could come over to her house on her birthday. We would swim and then head over to the hotel for a sleepover. Then we would go to the movies the next day. Her birthday was on Friday, so we would have gone to the movies on Saturday. Now, my parents have never been the type to let me or my sister go for sleepovers, but they had met Anne before and seemed to think that she was a responsible enough girl, so after enough begging, they allowed us to go. But I had another friend, Bella, that was also having her sweet 16 on Saturday, that we were supposed to go to the movies. Anne and Bella are two of my extremely close friends, but they're in different friend groups, so they aren't really close themselves. And Bella really wanted me to be there. So I worked things out with my mom, and she said that if Anne's mom could drop my sister and I off at Anne's house at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, then she would pick us up and take us back home to get ready for Bella's party. Luckily, Anne's mom agreed. On the day of the sleepover, two of the girls who were going to be there canceled last minute, so we were just 6. We decided that 3 people would share a room. So it was me, my sister, and another girl named Sophie inside a room. The others were in the room on the right, one that was the opposite of ours. Later that night, we decided to make TikToks in the hallway. After a while, Anne's little sister and her cousin made us all stop and go into their room to tell us something. They told us that they had noticed that the door to the room opposite ours had been open for quite a while, and every time that they tried to close it, the man in the room would always find an excuse to open it again and refuse to close it, and they had found him peeking at us, trying to make our TikToks a number of times already, and that they were scared. I forgot to add that a couple of hours before this all took place, there had been a couple of guys in the hallway smoking weed. Well, I think, and the hallway still reeked of it. And while we were having lunch at the hotel restaurant, anytime one of us went back to their room to get something, there was a guy standing in the hallway who always tried to make conversation with them, but they just ignored him. Note that we are all between the ages of 14 to 16, except Anne's little sister, who is 11 or 12. And it's very obvious that we are children and those men were adults. I think they were in their late 20s, so there is no chance that they mistook us for adults. Well, back to the story. Since most of the girls were freaked out by now, We decided to just stay in Anne's room until we were ready to go to bed. After a while, Anne's little sister said that she wanted to go back to her room. She was sharing a room with Anne's parents, but she was too scared. So me, my sister, and another friend escorted her back, and Anne's mom told us that we would leave by 7 a.m. instead of 6. We told her that it was okay, and then we left. But when we told our mom, she said that we shouldn't leave by 7, or else the traffic would be too bad for us to make it home in time to get ready for Bella's party. The traffic is very bad around that area. But by this time, it was already around 11 p.m. and we didn't want to wake Anne's mom. So we told her to just send a text to her mom to let her know. But by the time we were heading back to our room, Anne said that her mom hadn't seen the message yet. There was really nothing we could do, so we just said okay and then left. My sister and I are very deep sleepers, so we told our friend to wake us up at 5 a.m. because she usually wakes up around that time to read Wattpad. Don't ask me why, I don't know. When it was time, she woke us up and got ready, but my sister went back to sleep. She's a deeper sleeper than me. And once I was done getting ready, I told my friend to wake me up at 5:45 so that I could wake my sister so that we would be ready when Anne's mom came to get us. But my friend fell asleep too, and she woke me up at 6. I was scared that Anne's mom hadn't seen the message and still thought that we were meant to leave by 7. So I decided to go and wake her up, and my sister was still asleep even though I tried to wake her up. So I decided to go alone. I was still in my pajamas because my mom had said that there was no need for us to bring another set of clothes to change into. When I opened the door, I saw 2 men standing in the doorway of the room next to ours. Music was blasting out of that room, and the smell of weed was stronger than last night. I panicked and rushed back into my room to wait for them to leave. And after a while, I checked to make sure that the hallway was empty before I ran down the hall. Anne's mom's room was at the opposite end of the hallway. And when I got to her room, I hesitated because I didn't want to seem like a nuisance coming to wake her up at 6 a.m. to drop me off somewhere. So I stood in front of her door, just staring at it, trying to gather up the courage to knock, when I heard the door to the room beside mine open, and the same 2 men from before came out. I tried my best not to make it obvious that I was staring at them, but I was just hoping that they would leave soon as I could run back to my room. They went towards the stairs and stopped right in front of it. They were quite a distance away from me, so I couldn't make out what they were saying when they started murmuring to each other. Then one of them, the one with the dreadlocks, looked directly at me and said, "Hi." And like the idiot that I am, I said hi back. He then said something, but due to my poor hearing, I couldn't hear him and had asked him to repeat himself a couple of times before I could finally make out what he was saying. He was asking if he could come talk to me. I panicked, and like the idiot that I am, I said, Sure." So he walked down the hallway to stand in front of me, like directly in front. There was barely any distance between us, and I couldn't create any because my back was against the door to Anne's mom's room. He asked me what my name was, and I said the first name that came into my mind, Sasha. Where I'm from, that is an incredibly rare name, and I was surprised that he didn't question it. He asked for my number, and I said that I didn't have a phone. After that, he just stopped talking and then stared a bit. It was then that I noticed how empty the hallway was, apart from his friend, and how high this guy looked. He asked me if there was any other way he could contact me, and I said Snapchat because I was scared that things could go south fast if I didn't give him something to work with. He asked for my username, and I told him. And that was when my sister came out and saw us. She quickly walked down the hallway and stood beside me. She told me that my friend was looking for me, so I gave a rushed goodbye to the man and quickly ran back to my room with my sister. On our way, his friend stopped us and said hi, but we just ignored him and quickly rushed back inside. By the time we gathered the courage to come out again, they were gone. I told my friends what happened, but was too scared to tell my parents so they wouldn't use this against me the next time that I wanted to go for a sleepover. So, to the random high guy who cornered me in the hotel, let's not meet again.
So I'm sitting at the desk and a guy comes down to buy a drink from our market. I do the polite chit-chat while he pays, but he just stares at me. I figure that maybe it's just too early in the morning for him and move on with my morning. But not too long after, I look up towards our breakfast area and notice this same guy sitting in a chair facing me and intently staring at me. When I meet his gaze, he looks away, and I think to myself, okay, maybe he just zoned out. I keep going with my end of shift stuff and look up again a few minutes later to see him still staring at me. At this point, I need to count the drawer anyway, so I scoot my chair over to the drawer that oh so conveniently happens to be a spot where he wouldn't be able to see me, and I start counting. I then look up to notice him still staring, but now he's switching seats. He moved to a higher stool that has a direct view of me at the desk, no matter where I go. He isn't trying to hide or disguise the fact that he's staring at me. While it isn't all that bad, or even as bad as some of the things I've had to put up with here, something about him is unsettling, and he's freaking me out. After my shift, I made it home safe and sound. When I left the hotel, I sped walked to my car and I got in as quickly as I could. When I drove past the door to the hotel, he was standing outside watching me. I just hit the gas and took a different route home. I checked behind me frequently and made sure I wasn't followed, but I still work there, so I'll have to keep an eye out.
Story by u/cold_ad8932. This happened during the summer of 2002 while I was on a family trip in Las Vegas. My family and I went on a family vacation to Las Vegas. I am female and was 11 at that time when this story happened. There were a bunch of us since we had family visiting from out of country. After hitting the swimming pool, my family wanted to go to another hotel to go shopping. My grandma and I decided to go back up to our hotel room because she was tired and I wanted to change before meeting back up with the rest of our family later on for lunch. Note that she had just immigrated from the Philippines a few years before and knew very limited English. We got into the elevator, and as it was closing, an older gentleman, maybe in his early to mid-50s, asked to hold the door. I remember my mom telling me not to let any strangers know where our room was, so before he got in, I pressed 2 more floors, and thank God I did. He then got in and started making small talk. He looked at my shirt, and I was wearing a Beach Babe Contest tank top from Limited 2, and then he said, Where's the Beach Babe contest? I'd like to be the judge and make sure you win." My grandma and I smiled at each other and laughed. Then, he asked what room we were staying in. I told him that we were visiting a family member's room. He then asked if we were staying at the hotel and if he could escort us back to our room. I told him no. His face at some point turned cold, whereas before, he appeared friendly. He began to insist that he walk us back to our room, and at that point, I began panicking and just fell silent. My grandma stared at me, and after what felt like an eternity, his smile came back and then said, "Come on, I'm just being nice, right, Grandma?" I remember my stomach sinking, until finally, the elevator door opened and a couple walked in. I don't know what in me told me to trust them, but I blurted out, "I don't know this man, but he's forcing me to let him walk me to my hotel room, and I'm scared." The man then laughed and told them that I was his niece. I kept my composure as best as I could, but I just remember starting to cry, and I couldn't stop crying. My grandma was confused because she didn't really know what was going on. The couple told us to get off the elevator so that I could call my parents, and they walked me and my grandma down to the hotel lobby to the reception desk. And I still get chills thinking about what may have happened that day.
This happened back in the spring of 2007 when my buddy and I were doing a month-long backpacking trip across Europe. We had started in London and took every imaginable mode of transportation through France, the Netherlands, Germany, Austria, and finally ended our trip in Italy. Due to a bus delay, we arrived in Rome several hours later than scheduled. The folks at the hostel said they had assumed we weren't going to show and rented our beds to other travelers. Not to worry, they told us. There was a spillover property across the city they rented out for such an occasion. This was a 2-bedroom apartment with several bunk beds packed into the rooms. Here we spent our last 3 nights in Europe, along with a group of young Spaniards we ended up going out clubbing with and having a blast. On our last day, our Spanish friends left and were replaced by a large group of 10 Latin American men and 1 woman who we briefly met before heading out for our final night in Rome. There was a bit of a language barrier, but everyone seemed nice and we headed out separately. My friend and I got to our bunks around 2 a.m. and about an hour later, the other group shambled in. Clearly pretty drunk, they all got into their bunks, and within 15 minutes the lights were out and they were snoring away. All but one. One of the young men on an upper bunk directly across from me was still awake, seemingly playing with his phone. My eyes were shut and I was starting to drift off to sleep just as a bright light hit me directly in the face, and I heard the shutter click sound on his camera phone. Annoyed, but not wanting to be confrontational, I turned onto my back, facing slightly away, hoping he would just go to bed. Instead, he continued taking photos of me, whispering obscenities in English that I won't repeat. I realized that passivity was the wrong strategy when he got down off of his bunk and crept over to mine. For a few moments, he stood over me, apparently with his hand on the upper bunk where my traveling companion slept. At this point, my heart rate went through the roof, and I quickly started considering options. A cold realization suddenly hit me. We were in a private apartment with no other travelers or staff in the building. If I confronted this person, he might wake his companions. I had no idea whether any of these men were dangerous, and if they were, we might be in for the fight of our lives. If they were so inclined, they could probably kill us and just say we had left on schedule and we'd never be heard from again. I was thinking of kicking this guy in the stomach and bolting for the kitchen to grab a knife when he suddenly knelt down and reached into my bed. That was it. I sat up sharply and got right in his face, asking, "Do you need something, dude?" as menacingly as I could. He froze. Without saying a word, he got up and walked into the common area. I heard the bathroom door shut. About a minute later, he got back in his bunk, and 10 minutes after that, he too was snoring peacefully. I was wide awake, fully dressed and ready for battle the rest of the night. Shortly before dawn, I woke my friend and we got out of there. He did ask, what was that guy doing last night? But I have no idea how aware he was of the whole thing. We were on our flight to Heathrow a couple of hours later, and we have never discussed it since. So yeah, creepy photographer guy, if I see you in public, you might meet these hands. Creep.
Story by u/Aletha26. So I've worked in a couple hotels in the past, mainly at the front desk directly dealing with guests. I must say that I loved working the graveyard shifts. You never know what kind of interesting situations you might encounter. It always seemed fun, especially during the holidays. That day we were full, no more check-ins for me, so it was going to be a light night. I always had an accountant and a security guard in the lobby during my shift, but since it was a calm night, the accountant went to find a place to nap after he was done, and I honestly didn't know where the guard was. They thought that since there were no more check-ins, I should be fine. I was going through the log from the last shift and found this sticky note with my name, and it also said, "Beware 305. No details or anything. I was looking at the monitor with the cameras and clicked on the screen that showed the hallway where room 305 was, and then I left it there while I finished my work. At around 3 a.m., I was still alone, and from the corner of my eye, I saw movement on the monitor. It was a guy. He seemed pretty regular, nothing creepy at all. He got closer to the front desk and requested his room to be cleaned. We didn't offer 24/7 housekeeping, so I informed him that. "Then you come clean. I sleep all day, and I want my cleaning done during the night." I told him very politely that I couldn't do that, and before I could keep explaining, he asked for my zodiac sign, and I answered, a bit confused. All of a sudden, he changes the subject, now talking about how he was a warrior in one of his past lives, and that in this life, he comes from a long line of warriors. He kept changing subjects every 2 minutes, and I couldn't keep up suddenly. "So, should we start heading up to my room?" And so again, I explained. He started getting this weird look on his face, like frustration. He just turned around and walked up to his room. 20 minutes later, I saw him on the monitor coming down again. This time, he took the stairs and stopped before turning to the lobby. He was standing there watching me through a pillar. I was standing in front of the monitor, so it may have looked like I was just working. He then started looking around, almost like checking if there was any other way to get closer without me knowing. I started to get a bit freaked out. It literally looked like he was stalking me. He went up one flight of the stairs, then got into the elevator down to the lobby. I imagine he didn't know that I had access to the cameras. He came closer to the front desk again and requested a tray with water, teas, and milk. I called the kitchen to place the order and let him know that it would be taken up. He asked again what time I was going to clean, and I just told him 7 a.m. because that's when housekeeping arrives. I started trying to locate the guard, and at this point, I was getting concerned for my safety. This guy was starting to act a bit of erratic. Before he turns to leave, he gave me an expecting look, opening his eyes wide. I have like 20 types of drugs in my system right now. That's why I'm awake and sleep all day. My mind is going 1,000 miles per hour right now. I didn't know how to answer honestly, so I asked if he needed medical assistance. He laughed and asked if I wanted to join him for tea. I declined, and he left for his room once again. After room service delivered his tea, the waiter went by the front desk. "Hey, so we need security to be here with you. The guy from 305 just asked me if he could use our stairs to get to the front desk without being seen. But first, he offered me money to convince you to go to his room." I was freaked out for sure, but since another person knew of the situation, it gave me a sense of safety, I guess. And the waiter left me to try and look for the security guard. At 5 a.m., the guest comes out of his room again. This time, he headed for the maintenance stairs. I didn't have access to the cameras there, but I knew that he couldn't get close to me without me seeing him, so I didn't feel in any danger really. The waiter showed up and told me that one of the security guards caught the guest trying to get to the front desk. The guest kept repeating that it was my idea, that I have been trying to go to his room all night, and that I told him to go through those stairs. The guard made a report about the incident and added what the guest said about me. So it became a bit of a big deal with upper management because it was made to look like the guest was right. Turned out, while they were investigating the situation, some of the female staff claimed that he tried to get them to his room under any pretext, but since the attempts were really obvious and he seemed out of it, they would just go in group or send a male co-worker. We've had creeps in the past, but this guy took the prize. The guard that was supposed to be with me fell asleep in the bathroom and was suspended for that. The accountant was reprimanded for leaving me alone also, and they were horrible to work with after that because they claimed that it was my fault. Management tended to always be on the guest side for any type of situation, so no one thought of reporting this guest. They would have fired me for what he said had it not been for the waiter speaking up. And here are the top comments from my last video. Welcome to Miss Creepy Tales Riddle Time. If you know the answer, feel free to leave it in the comments. And the winner gets to be featured in the next video. I build my home of sticky string and catch my prey with a bite or sting. Who am I? Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.